This week on MS Refresh, the Microsoft Guide to staying up to date with Microsoft 365, some cool new features in Word and Excel, and more updates coming to Teams, including a new license level. Stick around for the details, subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean Refresh Show. This is episode 12 for the week of February 22nd, 2021. Coming from the East Coast of the U.S., my name is Matt Wade.
And I think I'm still on the West Coast. Sean Bugler coming in. Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, good. I'm feeling good.
Are you trying to compete beard-wise here?
I'm so upset.
This took like 3.5 years, and in like 2 weeks, you're able to come halfway to where I am right now.
I got out of the shower and I realized I hadn't shaved and ran with it. I try to rake it every 2 weeks or so to get it down to at least a 1. Like, I don't necessarily want to like take it all the way down. Like, I like to keep it at sandpaper levels. You want to show some manhood is what you're saying, yeah. No, really, it's just so that I can scratch my palm.
My hands are really itchy.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's a tough life we lead.
Yeah, it is. How's your world?
No major complaints. Nothing really new this week. Just kind of chugging along with SharePoint rollouts and stuff like that, and book is inching closer, which is always good. And yeah, I think that's about it. Actually, it's been
Did you guys dodge the winter bonanza that hit the Midwest?
We got a couple. I think 3 or 4 days. We got a couple inches each. So like, no big deal.
Sure, but you guys are like built for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This whole Texas thing is just like we're up here just going, ugh. Like, how?
Man, thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, seriously, and not in an ironic way, but like.
No, but genuinely, yeah, we've both got friends down there.
Yeah, definitely. But up here, I remember living in Virginia, and if it would even like just even a flake of snow fall. And being from upstate New York, it's like, nope, I'm working from home today because it's not a me thing, it's a those people thing. I can't trust these people on the road if, there's even the hint of snow outside. So
absolutely, people forget how to drive immediately. North Carolina was the exact same way.
Yeah, it's insane. We have the issue here where the first day of snow, like, like everybody's going to get their bearings and then everybody's fine, right? Like, no big deal. But anywhere south of like, I don't know, Maryland is like, nope, you're taking your life in your hands among the populace.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, yeah. All right, so I think that just should probably bring us straight into, let's just talk about what's going on this week. So let's bring us right into the news.
This is the news.
In what feels like an episode we've all seen before, Microsoft is making waves with a routine message center update. On February 9th, Microsoft let on about a new Teams Pro service plan that would start appearing in tenants around mid-March. Now, Microsoft's made no bones about its intent to tack on premium features to the service, things like custom branding and expanded limits for live events. But this doesn't appear to be a rebrand of the Advanced Communications add-on, something that already exists and does exactly that. Instead, to paraphrase Tony Redmond, who wrote an excellent analysis that we'll link to in the show notes below, it appears this is more in line with efforts to allow admins to control access to select features still currently in development. It's likely that we'll start to hear more as the service plan begins to appear in the coming weeks, but in the meantime, we'll be keeping a close eye on this for you. Hopefully, more to come. Microsoft is purportedly working on a new unifying expression language for the Power Platform, aptly called PowerFX internally. According to those who have been able to glean more details, like Mary Jo Foley, this language work is inspired by the Microsoft Excel formula language. Currently, the language expressions that are available across the Power Platform, like Power Automate and Power Apps, share similarities but often sport small differences in syntax and capabilities. Other times, functions may exist in one service but not the other. This is massive news for those already familiar with the Power Platform and for those new to the collection of offerings. It's unknown whether the branding is finalized, but given how close we are to a certain marquee event, Microsoft Ignite, it's possible this leak indicates we're hearing close to finalized details. Be sure to subscribe now if you haven't already, and join us next week for our in-depth coverage of all the biggest announcements at Ignite. A couple of Microsoft senior customer engineers in Germany are trying to help you, point to camera, stay up to date with the latest things Microsoft is working on. Elegantly titled the O365 Update Scout, the idea behind the guide is to help point individuals towards the right combination of resources depending on what role you have within your organization and what things you ought to be tracking in the Microsoft universe. Authors Christian Heim and Christian Keller appear to have organized this independently of any formal Microsoft effort, and they make a firm effort to clarify that several times throughout the publication. It's really very well done, and we'll link it in the show notes down below so you can check it out for yourself. Hey Cortana, which day saw the most sales in menswear this week? Asking questions of your data in a natural way isn't new. Google Sheets, for example, has had this capability for several years now, so has Power BI. However, it seems Microsoft is intent on bringing similar functionality to Excel as soon as next month. The feature is being built out through Ideas in Excel, which is already the service's gateway to a variety of intelligent suggestions, courtesy of pattern recognition and machine learning. Taken straight from the roadmap, quote, natural language queries will allow you to ask questions about your data, whether it's retrieving a specific fact or summarizing your data in your preferred way. For example, you can ask total number of products, top 10 products by sales, or even more complicated questions like what percentage of products have sales higher than 2,000 in 2018. It's an incredibly exciting development and one that could dramatically lower the barrier between people and the insights hiding within their data. A couple of Teams updates coming very soon. The service is gearing up to provide shareable links for any file in a team. Sharing the link of a file will also prompt the sender to adjust permissions on this file. This includes any file shared in private chat, again, all right within Teams. Sounds like a potential permissions nightmare, but only time will tell. The feature is set to arrive next month. Staying on Teams for just a beat longer, the limit for membership of an individual team is set to raise from 10,000 to 25,000 and has already started to roll out. While there's obviously interest in bringing an entire organization under one roof for the purpose of centralizing org-wide communication and resource sharing, I've got to admit, the idea of being in a communal space with 25,000 of my closest colleagues feels potentially overwhelming. And while progress has been made to provide admins with the tools needed to manage such a large pool of individuals, there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure these spaces remain destinations and not distractions. Do you work in a large organization? How's your experience been as these org-wide channel limits get bigger and bigger? Sound off in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Planner tasks should soon be able to support up to 25 separate labels. Think tags or categories. This change should come as welcome relief to those who have long found themselves bursting at the seams with the current limit of 6 labels. This should also really help with project management, slicing and dicing the status of your team's work. The roadmap has this scheduled to begin rolling out in February, which... tick-tock. Lastly, coming in hot off the release of predictive text suggestions for Outlook, a feature that offers word and even sentence suggestions while composing an email, it seems Microsoft is intent on taking that offer to the next natural step. According to the Microsoft 365 roadmap, text predictions will soon be available in Word for Windows when writing documents. Just like in Outlook today, quoting from the roadmap, when this feature rolls out, users will see text predictions when writing documents in English. When they see the suggested text, users can accept by tapping the tab key, or they can ignore suggestions by simply continuing to type. End quote. The goal of the feature is to aid in reducing spelling and grammatical errors. According to Microsoft, the feature will even learn over time, aiming to provide custom recommendations based on your writing style. So get ready for even more exclamation points from yours truly.
That was the news.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sean. So what is the item of this week that really kind of stands out to you for first discussion?
I'm going to explode, Matt, in a good way.
Okay.
Power FX. There's so much there to unpack that we don't know, but I'm going to infer.
Is this a new TV channel? We got
Power
FX,
FX.
FXX, now Power FX? Is that...
That's exactly it. It's Always Sunny is getting bumped to that.
Perfect. All right.
So Power FX is going to... So it's a leak right now. Right now there's nothing formal from Microsoft, but it's been dug into by a couple of key sources. Mary Jo Foley is a great example. And the gist of it is it's a unifying language, a unifying expression language that's going to hopefully tie together the entire Power Platform. So right now, for those of you that exist in the Power Platform, Matt, I know you've toyed with it a little bit. Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI all have an expression language built in so that you can do things that aren't necessarily possible, out of the box, or you can combine data points, you can pull from other data sources, manipulate it, so on and so forth. They all do it just a little bit differently. Their syntax is a little bit different. The arguments are a little bit different. And that's really tough if you're trying to do something, say, in Power Apps that throws to Power Automate, or if you're trying to do something in Power Automate that works with data in Power BI, et cetera, et cetera. So this idea that you could unify that language is so exciting, because you have, like, right now, and you see it right now in the Power Automate space, that there are experts, there are people who are self-proclaimed experts in one of the three, two of the three. But very rarely do you see people who are really proficient in all three, and that's because of that nuance. So it's super exciting, and it looks like it's going to be taking some cues from the Excel formula language, which, as you know, is where I got my start in tech. So I'm just tickled by the idea of what this could mean.
You are just nerding out right now. So
I'm
sounds
so
like
excited.
this sounds almost like it's like Esperanto, but with teeth. Kinda. You're just going to equally piss everybody off so that all of us have to start anew? Is that how that...
I'm really curious to see what this means for legacy, and this very well may be just like a realignment. Like, we may be finding out this is a rebranding and that they're not going to change anything, and I hope that's not the case. But yeah, like, I would bet that this will probably something that has to come in alongside existing content, because I mean, you imagine all the work that's been done to build Power Apps and to build flows in Power Automate, like,
don't
breaking
pull the carpet
all of
out
that
from under us.
Oh my God, you'd upset so many people.
Agreed.
I mean, talk about changing licensing times 100.
Yeah. I hope they take this opportunity to, in the limited amount that I've actually done, Power anything, the syntax stuff is the most infuriating, because yes, you can claim this is a low code tool, except the syntax debugging is legitimately debugging.
Right.
Time is the worst thing in the world to work with in a Power Automate workflow.
Couldn't
having
agree more.
to change time zones, or basically just to scrub the time that comes in or goes through, and having to change it to different, you basically have to change time zones just to get it in the format that you want for the next step to be entered into whatever else. So it would be nice if they took this opportunity to clean some things up in that respect. So I can halfway there meet you on the excitement level if they do some of the syntax stuff.
All remains to be seen. We're close to Ignite, so I'm hoping that these leaks indicate that we're going to hear some concrete news soon.
True that.
What about you? What was something that caught your attention?
Well, I think the Teams Pro thing is going to make a lot of people infuriated / confused. So Microsoft talked about this Teams Pro coming out. I think that went out in the message center and just like started a kerfuffle among all the Teams admins out there. If you haven't done so yet, do yourself a favor, and you really need to read the article by Tony Redmond on what Teams Pro is. The just delicious title of this article is "Microsoft Confuses Everyone with Teams Pro Service Plan or License." It really just kind of boils down to there's going to be some features within Teams that are going to be available to people that are sort of like pro users. So actually the name isn't awful, and it seems like it's not going to be an extra add-on type of fee. It's going to be just one of those toggles you have in the admin center to give people access to like, a branded meeting lobby space, or it's probably going to be something tied to, well, maybe it would be paid for actually if you would tie it into the webinar sign-up process, because that portion has already been spoken about as being an additional license or fee. But if you haven't read into that article yet, definitely do so. It will definitely help you out a lot as to what Teams Pro is and what kind of implication it is. Right now, it just kind of sounds like a wah-wah, and it's going to be more of an organizational thing, but you'll want to get into that if you're managing or administering Teams in any way. So I'll pass back to you, Sean.
It felt like something that was really small. I'm sure that they were like, oh, we just have to take these features that we know that we're going to charge extra for, like webinars, and give it a title. But the manner in which they announced that Teams Pro was going to exist, I think, to your point, it freaked me out as an admin. I'm like, what does this mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
are they going to be able to purchase this license themselves like it was with the Power Platform? Blah, blah, like the precedent is there. It's terrifying in that respect.
My deep cynicism of Microsoft piling everybody into a product that's ostensibly free and then changing the licensing terms after you become dependent on it left me with of course they're doing this again. I'm glad to hear it doesn't seem to be the case, but we'll see.
Chain me into the service and then not let me out and charge me for it. Yep, exactly. So what's another one that's on your list, Sean?
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Microsoft starting to inspire itself to borrow some of the features that existed within the Google Workspace realm. I think we talked about dictation as an example being built into Word and Outlook and some of those features.
Yeah.
And it seems like that actually was a little more prescient than even we expected would be the case. Because Microsoft just dropped onto the roadmap, I think yesterday or the day before, that they are working on natural language queries directly within Excel. Now, just a little bit of context, what we're talking about here is you're looking at a giant cluster of data, and this is how I used to describe it when I was teaching pivot tables, is this idea that there's this giant mass of data, and you look at it, and you really don't care what it takes to manipulate it. What you really want to know is you're looking at wine sales. You want to know how much of red wine am I selling as compared to white wine? Mm-hmm. People don't want to have to understand how to get there. They just want the answer.
Correct, right.
And so that's what natural language queries are all about. Taking this mass set of data and asking a question in a very human way and having Excel parse that and understand the intent of what you're asking for to manage that data in a way that answers the question. Google Sheets has had this for years, and it's been such a differentiating feature when it comes to, again, the average user analyzing data without having to be an expert in Excel.
That's interesting. I didn't know Google Sheets had that. I use Google Sheets pretty regularly, especially when sharing budget info with my family, because it's easy to share. We all have Gmail accounts, but I've never gotten deep into what Sheets can do. Whenever I need to do any sort of hardcore spreadsheet work, I always jump to Excel. I didn't know that you could just ask Google what.
Yeah, there's a little button in the bottom right hand corner. It's their version of what Microsoft again borrowed, the ideas feature. It's their version of ideas. And so if you click on that in the bottom right, there's a ton of stuff depending on the context of where you are, where Google would try to do that. And Microsoft is clearly taking that to the next level with their own, machine learning and AI. So I'm super excited about that, because again, people don't necessarily need to be experts in these things. They just need to get to the answer. And natural language queries are absolutely the next step in that.
Yeah, cool. Hey, go forward and conquer Excel team. I never have a bad word to say about the Excel team. I've never had a bad experience with Excel.
Those are our two golden children.
Yes, if I have a bad experience with Excel, it's my fault. In every situation, it has always been my fault.
SharePoint design team, Excel engineering.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yep, I'm with you there.
Bring us home. What's something that caught your attention?
All right. Stumbling across Reddit this week, I found a post regarding post on Reddit regarding a blog post from Microsoft, and it was a resource that's really good, actually, if you go to it. It is an article from a couple PFEs, which now I think they said they've renamed them to Microsoft Customer Engineers, I guess, yeah. But formerly known as Premier Field Engineers, which I didn't know that. I'm still working with PFEs in my organization, and they haven't changed their job titles, I don't think. But regardless, it is an article called Staying on Top of Office 365 Updates, which sounds notoriously close to a blog post that I posted multiple times over the last few years on where to find the right stuff to keep up to date with Office 365 and Microsoft 365. How do you know it's changing, all that kind of stuff. Really, really good info. In fact, they have it in here such that you can filter down based on what your job type is, and then they'll recommend resources to follow and keep on top of. Well, as I'm reading through the comments in Reddit, somebody made the very apt comment that if you were to print out the resources that were provided, it would be a 39-page PDF. And that just, I think, states right there. It's one of those things where sometimes you just have to step back to understand or to really appreciate how much you've done in a project, or where are you on the thing that you're working on. And you can get into the nitty gritty, but a lot of times the nitty gritty is not a really good way to understand your status. And I think this, which more power to these guys. I think it's just, two, customer engineers out in Germany actually put it together and published it. And great, we need this kind of stuff. But I think that just should be, somebody should print that out, bind it at a Kinko's, and throw it on the desk of every CVP at Microsoft and say, this is what it takes for administrators. Keep in mind, small, medium businesses, typically the CEO is the administrator of the organization, and say, this is what it means to be able to keep up with things that are going to change that are outside of your control. And like that right there is a really, really good, tangible reminder of just how out of your control and just how much of your day and week is required to stay on top of all of this stuff that comes at us in that, fire hose of M365 updates. And like, this video series that you and I do, we try to sort of boil that stuff down to people in a 20, 25, 30 minute time block. But we're not going to catch everything because we're only human too. And, we care about certain things depending on what our job roles are. We're similar in our job roles, but we're not the same. You do a lot more on Power Platform. I do a lot more on Teams. I think we both do a lot in SharePoint, and I don't do very much in Azure. I don't know what so it's like, how are you supposed to pinpoint to somebody, oh yeah, this is the resource you're supposed to look at? And this is good. It's helpful. It's great that somebody's putting out like a centralized resource, and I give a lot of kudos to the two authors here. It's just one of those things that like a printout of this needs to be dropped on every upper level manager at Microsoft to remind them, hey, this is the kind of responsibility you're putting in people's hands. And it's not just administrators out there or like formal IT admins or sysadmins. These are CFOs, CEOs, CXOs of small and medium businesses that like, we don't have the resources or the time or the effort to put, an IT person on staff or, to have somebody consult full time, or we just don't trust them yet to give them the access to all of our confidential information, right? Like an IT administrator has access to everything, right? Like that's a big deal. So anyway, I thought that was kind of one of those big picture things to remind us, everybody in the Microsoft community, that like there's a lot of good resources out there, so many, so that the list can get extremely long.
It's always fun to, when you have that out of body experience, you're like, oh, we're a symptom of this problem. Like you and I right now existing on this, in this little box, are a symptom of this challenge. And I mean, great, Microsoft, keep doing that. Like we'll keep doing this, but ideal world scenario, there's not. And by the way, there's a PowerPoint deck in there, 55 slides.
I didn't even get it to
55 slides.
Oh. Yeah.
So it's just, kudos to Christian Heim and Christian Keller for putting this together, Christian squared. We really appreciate that you did that, because obviously you guys care, and obviously this is something that's come out of necessity. It's just such an interesting thing to see that even inside the machine they're trying to solve for this problem.
Yeah, So that brings us to the community events overview for the week, and the news is nothing's really changed since last week. So this Friday, February 27th, we have the Scottish Summit. I will be speaking at that, so definitely stop by. March 2nd to the 4th is Microsoft Ignite. March 6th, M365 Saturday Chennai. March 20th, M365 Saturday Pune. You can see a full list of the upcoming events for the year at the link in the description. And make sure to tune in for our coverage on the biggest takeaways from Microsoft Ignite. You will not want to miss it. Now, that brings us finally to our community member of the week. I'm going to take the lead this week by giving a huge shout out to Tom Daly. Tom's a Microsoft 365 and SharePoint consultant and Microsoft MVP out of the New York metro area. He's one of the brains behind SharePoint Saturday New York City and the New York City team's Tuesday user group. So Tom's one of those guys who, when an event gets overwhelming, I can always ping and grab a drink with, which is really, really handy. He is very tolerant of me because he actually lives in New Jersey, and being a New Yorker, I have a lot of jokes to say, but just a super, super smart guy. I think he came from originally a lot of programming and especially SharePoint branding background. More jokes built into that one too, because I'm always an anti-branding guy, so we've had really good debates in the past. But just a great, great guy, puts together some of the greatest events. If you've never been to SharePoint Saturday New York City, it's usually in July. It's in the middle of the summer. The city is very hot, but they always get Microsoft's building in Times Square, and it's just so cool because I usually take the train from Albany down into the city, and you come out, from Penn Station, walk up a few blocks, and you just have this beautiful building, great views of Times Square, and just awesome people to speak, people to interact with. Usually hundreds and hundreds of people show up for this, and then they have a great share pint afterwards at a local bar across the street with a rooftop bar, all that kind of stuff. Very cool. And then I've run into Tom at a bunch of different events, and he's just always that guy that like, all right, there's so much going on. I just need a chill night. I wonder if Tom's available. We can just chill at the hotel bar and take a night off kind of thing. And always available and always just great to chat with and learn a lot from, because he's very much from the technical side and I'm very much not. And it's always nice to hear like what you can do and what I should be talking to the technical people that I know or work with. And but Tom, thanks a lot for all that you do and for being a good friend, especially as I kind of slipped my way into this whole community thing over the last few years.
Yeah, I was really disappointed that the world caught on fire. One, because the world caught on fire, and two, because I was actually aiming to put in for SharePoint Saturday, New York, and the big driver for that one was almost entirely because of just the effusive praise that I continue to hear about Tom. And I wasn't necessarily as overtly familiar with his work leading up to this episode, but given that we selected him for the Community Member of the Week, I took a look, and the way that he demystifies some of this dense stuff is truly a joy. So, really a great pick for this week, I think.
Yep, definitely. All right, so that brings us to the end of the episode this week. Sean, any closing thoughts before we close out?
We need to work on sponsorships. If you saw in the comments and our YouTube comments. And by the way, like for those of you that don't know, we read every single comment that you put in there. And
I'm not that vain. I don't read everything. I definitely read every comment.
But somebody noticed that I use my Ember mug quite a bit. It's a heating mug. It's very nice. And if Ember would like to sponsor us, this is the second dumbest technical thing that I own. We will happily accept. Ember, call me. Anything on your side of the fence, Matt?
No. I think with that, I will say thank you very much, Sean, for joining me. And to everybody watching, thanks so much for watching this week. If you have any thoughts, praise, suggestions,
sponsorship
rants
opportunities
that you would like to, or sponsorship opportunities, by all means, leave a comment in the comment section below. We leave all of the links on the community member, the list of events, any sort of references that we've made during the session in the description below, so make sure to get that. And thanks so much for joining us. A like and subscribe is always appreciated, and can't wait to see you again next week for the MS Refresh Show.
This episode was brought to you by Viva Paper Towels.
Not toilet paper. I don't know how many people commented saying that, I saw the Viva toilet paper in the background, and it's like, that makes it sound like I'm saying that Viva is a piece of shit. But that's not what I was saying, because it's actually paper towels. They don't make toilet paper, they make paper towels.
To clean up the feature sprawl that Viva is trying to solve for. That's what it is.
Right.
That was the metaphor.